The stars looked different from the bridge of the New Horizon. Captain Jake Morrison had been flying this old cargo ship for 15 years, and he still remembered when the galaxy felt dangerous. Now everything seemed quiet, almost boring. The year was 3087, and most people said the galaxy had never been safer. Jake watched the star charts on his screen while his pilot Lisa Carter worked the controls. They were heading to Mining Station Beta 7 to pick up another load of rare metals. It was the same job they did every month. Nothing exciting ever happened anymore. "Captain, we're getting close to the station," Lisa said. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and quick hands on the ship controls. "Should be there in about 2 hours." "Good," Jake replied. He was older, maybe 40, with gray starting to show in his black hair. "Pete, how are the engines running?" From the engine room, Pete Rodriguez called back. "Everything looks fine, Captain. This old ship keeps going no matter what we do to her." Pete was the ship's engineer. He could fix almost anything with just basic tools and spare parts. The New Horizon was old, maybe 50 years old, but Pete kept her flying like she was brand new. Amy Brooks sat at the communications station, listening to radio signals from across the galaxy. She was quiet most of the time, but she heard everything that happened in their part of space. "Captain, I'm getting some strange signals from the outer rim," she said. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure. It sounds like ships, but the signals are different from anything I've heard before." Jake thought about this. For 1,000 years, the galaxy had been ruled by the Galactic Federation. The Zephyrian Empire was the strongest member, and they made sure everyone followed the rules. There hadn't been a real war in hundreds of years. The Zephyrians were tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms and very advanced technology. They thought they were smarter than everyone else, especially humans. To them, humans were just simple farmers and miners who lived on the edge of civilized space. Jake knew this wasn't completely true. Humans had been great fighters once, back during the Great Expansion Wars 1,000 years ago. But after the peace started, most people forgot about fighting. They focused on growing food and mining metals for the other alien species. "Keep listening to those signals, Amy," Jake said. "Let me know if you hear anything else." On the planet Nexus Prime, Ambassador Karen White sat in the Federation Council chamber. She was the only human representative among dozens of alien diplomats. Most of the time, they ignored her completely. High Commander Vexthon, the leader of the Zephyrian Empire, was talking about trade agreements. He was 8 feet tall with dark blue skin and golden eyes that seemed to look through people. His voice was deep and commanding. "The Outer Rim territories will continue to provide raw materials for the core worlds," Vexthon said. "The human colonies are particularly good at this simple work." Karen felt angry but stayed quiet. She had learned that speaking up usually made things worse. The other aliens saw humans as a weak species that was only good for basic labor. But Karen remembered the old stories her grandfather told her. Stories about human ships that could fight against impossible odds. About human soldiers who never gave up, even when everything seemed lost. Those days were long gone, but sometimes she wondered if humans still had that strength hidden somewhere inside them. Back on the New Horizon, Amy suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, you need to hear this." Jake walked over to her station. Through the speakers came a sound unlike anything he had ever heard. It was like metal grinding against metal, mixed with a low humming noise that made his teeth ache. "That's not from any Federation ship," Lisa said. She had stopped what she was doing to listen. "No, it's not," Jake agreed. "Amy, can you figure out where it's coming from?" Amy worked at her controls for several minutes. "It's coming from the direction of Kepler Station." "But Captain, there shouldn't be any ships out there except for Federation patrol vessels." Jake felt something cold in his stomach. Kepler Station was a small Federation outpost that watched the empty space beyond the galaxy's edge. Nothing ever happened there. "Change course," he told Lisa. "Take us toward Kepler Station, but keep us far enough away that we won't be seen." "Are you sure, Captain?" Pete asked over the intercom. "We're supposed to pick up that cargo." "The cargo can wait," Jake said. "Something's wrong out there." As they flew toward Kepler Station, the strange signals got stronger. Amy listened carefully with her headphones on. Captain, I'm hearing Federation distress calls now. Very weak. But they're there. Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. He hadn't felt this way since he was young, back when the galaxy still had dangerous places. How long until we can see the station? About 30 minutes, Lisa answered. Those 30 minutes felt like hours. When Kepler Station finally appeared on their screens, Jake couldn't believe what he saw. The station was broken into pieces, floating in space like garbage. Some parts were still burning. My God, Amy whispered. Around the destroyed station were ships unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They were black and smooth, with no visible windows or weapon ports. They moved in perfect formation, like they were controlled by one mind. Lisa, take us behind that asteroid, Jake said quietly. Don't let them see us. As they watched from hiding, more of the black ships appeared. They seemed to come from nowhere, just appearing in empty space. Jake counted at least 20 of them, maybe more. Captain, Pete said over the intercom, what could have done this to a Federation station? Their shields should have protected them from anything. Jake didn't answer because he didn't know. Federation technology was the most advanced in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had energy shields that could stop any weapon anyone knew about. But Kepler Station was completely destroyed. One of the black ships moved closer to the station wreckage. Jake watched as a beam of light came from the ship and scanned the floating pieces. Then the beam disappeared and the ship moved away. They're looking for something, Jake said. Or someone, Amy added. As they watched, all the black ships suddenly turned and flew away into deep space. In just a few minutes they were gone, leaving only the destroyed station behind. Jake sat back in his chair and tried to think. Someone or something had just destroyed a Federation outpost with ease. Ships that could appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Technology that could break through Federation shields like they weren't even there. Lisa, get us out of here, he said. We need to report this to Federation Command. Where should I set course for? Lisa asked. Jake thought for a moment. The nearest Federation base was 3 days away, but something told him they didn't have 3 days. Take us home, he said. Take us back to Earth fast as you can. As the New Horizon turned away from the destroyed station, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The 1,000 years of peace might be coming to an end, and he wasn't sure if anyone was ready for what was coming next. The Federation Council chamber had never been so quiet. High Commander Vexthon stood at the center, his forearms moving as he tried to explain what had happened. His golden eyes looked worried for the first time in decades. 3 more outposts have been destroyed, he said. Station Alpha 12, the mining facility at Ceres Point, and the research base on Titan 7. All gone in less than 2 days. Ambassador Karen White listened from her seat at the back. The other alien representatives whispered among themselves in their strange languages. Fear was spreading through the chamber like smoke. What do we know about these attackers? Asked Commander Zeltar from the crystalline Asthari race. His body looked like living glass and his voice sounded like wind chimes. Very little, Vexthon admitted. Our ships cannot get close enough to study them. Every Federation vessel that approaches is destroyed within minutes. Karen raised her hand. Most of the aliens ignored her, but Vexthon nodded for her to speak. What about survivors? She asked. Has anyone lived through these attacks? A few escape pods were recovered, Vexthon said. The survivors all say the same thing. The enemy ships appear from nowhere, their weapons go through our shields like they don't exist, and then they disappear. Karen felt a chill run down her back. She had heard Jake Morrison's report about what happened at Kepler Station. The captain had sent his message through secret human communication channels, the old networks that most aliens didn't know about. 3 days later, Karen stood in her small office, talking to General Ryan Clark through a secure video link. Clark was the head of Human Colonial Defense, and he looked exactly like what people expected from an old soldier. Gray hair, hard eyes, and scars on his hands from years of real work. How bad is it, Karen? Clark asked. Bad, she replied. The Federation is losing ships faster than they can count them. And Ryan, these aliens are scared. Really scared. I've never seen them like this. Clark nodded slowly. What do they want from us? Nothing yet. They still think we're just farmers and miners, but that might change soon. On the screen, Clark smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Maybe it's time they remembered what farmers and miners can do when they need to fight. Karen had known Clark for 20 years. He was one of the few people who remembered the old days when humans had to fight for everything they had. Ryan, tell me we still have the old weapons. We never got rid of them, Karen. We just hid them better. Across human space, old factories were waking up. Bob Turner walked through his manufacturing plant on New Texas, looking at machines that hadn't been used in 50 years. They were covered in dust and looked ancient compared to modern Federation technology. Can we get them working again? Asked Linda Hayes, his factory supervisor. She was a practical woman who had spent her whole life working with machinery. These machines were built to last, Bob said, running his hand along a large metal press. They made weapons for the old wars. Good, simple weapons that worked every time. Linda looked confused. But why do we need weapons? The Federation has been at peace for 1,000 years. Bob stopped and looked at her seriously. Because peace doesn't last forever, Linda. And when it ends, you better be ready. On the New Horizon, Jake Morrison was having the same conversation with his crew. They had returned to human space and were now orbiting Earth, waiting for new orders. I don't understand, Captain, Amy said. Why would humans keep old weapons when everyone else moved to energy-based systems? Pete looked up from the engine controls he was working on. Because kinetic weapons work differently, he said. Energy shields stop energy beams, but what stops a big piece of metal moving really fast? Jake nodded. Pete's right. During the old wars, we learned that the best defense can be beaten by the right offense. Energy shields were designed to stop energy weapons. But a simple railgun, firing a solid projectile, that's a different problem. Lisa was studying star charts at her pilot station. Captain, are you saying the Federation's most advanced defenses might not work against our old technology? I'm saying it's possible, Jake replied. And right now, possible is better than nothing. Dr. Sam Parker sat in his laboratory on Mars reading old military documents that most people had forgotten existed. Sam was young for a scientist, maybe 30, but he understood war better than most generals. He studied conflicts the way other people studied art. The documents told the story of humanity's expansion into space 1,000 years ago. Back then, humans had to fight for every planet, every space station, every trade route. They became very good at it. Interesting, Sam said to himself as he read. The enemy adapts to energy weapons, but they've never faced kinetic bombardment. He pulled up more files, these ones marked with old security codes. Pictures of weapons that looked simple compared to modern Federation technology, but had been incredibly effective in their time. Sam reached for his communication device and sent a message to General Clark. Sir, I think I know why the Federation weapons aren't working. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison received new orders. His ship was to be secretly modified with human weapon systems. The work would be done at a hidden facility in the asteroid belt, far from any Federation observation posts. Are you sure about this, Captain? Lisa asked as they flew toward the facility. If the Federation finds out we're arming our ships, they might think we're planning to rebel. Jake thought about the destroyed stations, about the fear in the aliens' voices. Lisa, something is coming that's going to kill everyone if we don't stop it. I'd rather have the Federation mad at us than have everyone dead. The hidden facility was bigger than Jake had expected. Ships that looked like normal cargo vessels were being fitted with railguns and missile launchers. Human engineers worked quickly and quietly, installing weapons that had been stored in secret locations for centuries. Marine Sergeant Tony Martinez joined Jake's crew at the facility. Tony was a big man with steady hands and calm eyes. He had trained for wars that never came, keeping alive skills that most people thought were useless. Captain Morrison, Tony said as he came aboard the New Horizon. I'm here to help you understand the new weapon systems. With Tony came Kate Johnson, a demolitions expert who looked too young and too small to be dangerous, but Jake could see in her eyes the same thing he saw in all the old soldiers, the knowledge of how to break things when breaking things was necessary. The Federation is about to learn something, Kate said as she checked her equipment. They're going to learn why humans never really stopped being soldiers. We just got very good at looking like farmers. As more reports came in of destroyed Federation outposts, the truth became clear. Whatever was attacking the galaxy had technology specifically designed to counter Federation defenses. Energy shields, plasma weapons, quantum barriers. None of it worked. But no one had tested these weapons against the simple, brutal efficiency of human kinetic weapons. No one had tried to fight an enemy that believed only in energy-based warfare against an opponent that still remembered how to throw rocks very, very fast. The galaxy was about to rediscover why humanity had been so feared during the old wars, and why keeping those old weapons hadn't been paranoia, it had been wisdom. The first test came at Dawn Colony, a small human settlement on the edge of Federation space. Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the New Horizon as 3 black enemy ships appeared near the colony's defense station. "All weapons ready, Captain," Tony Martinez said from the weapons console. The ship now carried 6 railguns and 20 guided missiles, all hidden beneath fake cargo panels. "Remember, we only get one chance to surprise them," Jake said to his crew. "After this, they'll know what we can do." The enemy ships moved toward the defense station just like they had at all the other attacks. Their strange weapons charged up, ready to cut through the Federation energy shields like paper. "Fire!" Jake ordered. The New Horizon's railguns spoke, with a sound like thunder. 6 solid metal projectiles, each weighing 50 pounds, shot out at incredible speed. There were no energy signatures, no bright lights, just chunks of metal moving faster than bullets. The first enemy ship took 3 hits before it could react. The metal projectiles punched through its hull like it was made of thin plastic. The ship spun wildly and exploded in a ball of fire. "Direct hit," Amy shouted from her station. "Captain, their shields didn't even slow down our shots." The other 2 enemy ships turned toward the New Horizon, but Jake was ready. "Lisa, evasive maneuvers. Kate, launch missiles." Kate Johnson's fingers danced over her controls. 4 guided missiles shot out from hidden launchers. Unlike the fancy Federation weapons, these missiles were simple and reliable. They followed their targets no matter how the enemy ships moved. The second enemy ship tried to run, but the missiles were faster. 2 explosions lit up space and another black ship was gone. The third ship fired its energy weapon at the New Horizon. Lisa threw the ship into a spinning dive and the enemy beam missed by inches. "Their weapons are just as powerful as the reports said," Pete called from the engine room. "But they can't hit what they can't predict." Jake smiled grimly. "That's the difference between fighting computers and fighting humans. We don't follow patterns." The last enemy ship found itself facing 6 more railgun shots. It tried to dodge, but metal projectiles don't care about fancy flying. The ship broke apart under the impact. "All targets destroyed," Tony reported. "No damage to our ship." For the first time in months, Jake felt hope. Word of the victory spread quickly through secret human channels. General Clark called an emergency meeting of all human military commanders. They gathered in an old bunker on Earth, deep underground where no aliens could listen. 3 enemy ships destroyed with 0 human losses, Clark announced to the room full of officers. Captain Morrison's crew proved that our weapons can hurt these invaders. Commander Lisa Carter, now promoted and given her own ship, stood up. "Sir, what about the Federation? They still don't know what we're capable of." Clark's expression was serious. "That's about to change. High Commander Vexthon has requested a meeting with Ambassador White. The Federation is desperate." In the Federation Council chamber, Vexthon looked like a different person. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by worry and fear. Around him, other alien leaders whispered nervously. "Ambassador White," Vexthon said, his voice strained. "We have lost 17 outposts and 4 major colonies. Our fleets cannot stop these attackers. We need help." Karen White stood slowly. She had been waiting for this moment for years. "What kind of help, High Commander?" "Any resources your people can provide, ships, supplies, anything." Karen looked around the chamber at all the alien faces that had ignored humanity for so long. "High Commander, my people have resources you might not expect." "What do you mean?" asked Commander Zeltar from the Esthari. "We mean that humans never Forgot how to fight, Karen said simply. We just got very good at hiding it. Dr. Sam Parker's research had revealed the truth about the enemy. In his laboratory, he showed General Clark video footage recovered from destroyed Federation ships. They call themselves the Void Collective, Sam explained. They come from a galaxy where every species uses energy-based weapons. Their ships, their shields, their tactics, everything is designed to fight energy weapons. But not kinetic weapons, Clark said. Exactly. Look at this. Sam showed video of enemy ships easily avoiding Federation plasma beams. They can predict where energy weapons will hit because energy follows predictable paths. But a solid projectile? That's physics they're not prepared for. Clark studied the footage. What about their own weapons? Pure energy, just like the Federation uses. Very powerful, but they require target locks and clear firing solutions. Against ships that move unpredictably like human pilots fly, they're much less effective. Within days, the truth was revealed to the galaxy. Hidden human facilities across dozens of worlds opened their doors, showing weapons that looked ancient but worked perfectly. Railguns that could punch through any armor. Missiles that never missed their targets. Ships that could fight and win, against impossible odds. High Commander Vexthon stood in a human weapons factory, staring at machines that looked like they belonged in a museum. How long have you had these? He asked General Clark. We never got rid of them, Clark replied. We learned from our history. Peace is good, but someone has to be ready when peace ends. But why didn't you tell us? Clark looked at the tall alien. Commander, would you have listened? For 1,000 years, you've treated humans like simple farmers. Would you have believed we kept armies hidden among the wheat fields? Vexthon had no answer for that. The first joint Human-Federation battle took place at Proxima Station. Captain Morrison led a squadron of modified human ships alongside Federation vessels that had been quickly fitted with human weapons. The enemy came in force, 12 black ships appearing from empty space. They moved in perfect formation toward the station, confident in their ability to destroy any defense. All human ships fire at will. Morrison ordered over the communication channel, space filled with metal projectiles and guided missiles. The enemy ships, expecting energy weapons they could dodge or absorb, found themselves facing attacks they couldn't predict or stop. 4 enemy ships died in the first 10 seconds. The remaining ships tried to adapt, spreading out and moving erratically. But Tony Martinez had trained the other human gunners well. Don't aim where they are, he told them over the radio. Aim where they're going to be. The Federation ships, now armed with human railguns, joined the fight. Their alien crews had to learn quickly how to use weapons that worked so differently from what they knew. It's like throwing stones, one Asthari gunner reported, but very, very fast stones. When the battle ended, all 12 enemy ships were destroyed. The human Federation fleet had lost only 2 ships, both Federation vessels that had been too slow to avoid enemy fire, but the real victory was what happened next. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy saw humans not as farmers or miners, but as warriors who had never really stopped being warriors. High Commander Vexthon sent a message to all Federation worlds. Humanity has revealed capabilities that may save us all. They offer to share their knowledge and fight alongside us. I recommend we accept. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every Federation member world agreed. The galaxy was finally ready to fight back. The enemy learned fast. Jake Morrison could see it in the way the black ships moved during their third battle together. They no longer flew in perfect formations. They spread out more, moved in patterns that were harder to predict. They're adapting to our weapons, Tony Martinez said from the weapons station. Look how they dodge now. Jake watched the enemy ships through the New Horizons viewport. 3 weeks of fighting had taught the Void Collective how dangerous human weapons could be, but it had also taught humans something important about their enemy. Amy, are you still picking up those command signals? Jake asked. Amy Brooks nodded, from her communication station. Yes, Captain. All their ships receive orders from somewhere else. They don't think for themselves. That was the key discovery. Dr. Sam Parker had figured it out after studying captured enemy technology. The Void Collective ships were controlled by a central command system. Every move, every decision came from one source. It makes them very organized, Sam had explained to General Clark, but it also makes them predictable if you understand the pattern. The problem was that the pattern was changing. The enemy command was learning from each battle, making their ships harder to hit, harder to destroy. But humans were learning too. Kate Johnson stood in the weapons bay of the New Horizon, working on something that looked like a normal missile but was much more dangerous. If their ships are controlled remotely, she said to Pete Rodriguez, then we need to get close to the source. Pete looked at her device nervously. Kate, that thing has enough explosive power to crack a small moon. That's the idea, Kate replied, with a grin. Sometimes you need a big hammer to fix a big problem. The final battle began at Terra Nova, the closest human colony to Earth. Intelligence reports said the largest Void Collective fleet ever seen was heading there. Over 100 ships, maybe more. General Clark coordinated the defense from his command ship, the Freedom. Around him, the combined Human Federation fleet took position. Humans flew ships armed with railguns and missiles. Aliens commanded vessels that mixed their energy weapons with human kinetic systems. This is it, Clark announced over the fleet communication channel. If we lose here, they'll have a clear path to Earth and the other core worlds. High Commander Vexthon's voice came through the radio from his own ship. General Clark, the Zephyrian fleet stands ready to follow human tactics. Jake Morrison smiled at that. 3 months ago, the proud Vexthon would never have admitted humans knew better ways to fight. The enemy fleet appeared like a black cloud against the stars. Jake had never seen so many of their ships in one place. They moved in a pattern that looked almost like a dance, spreading out across space in perfect coordination. All ships remember what we learned. General Clark's voice was calm and steady. They think as one mind, but they can't think like us. Use that. The battle began with the longest range weapons anyone had. Human railguns fired from maximum distance, sending solid projectiles across thousands of miles of space. The enemy ships moved to avoid the shots, but there were too many projectiles to dodge them all. Explosions bloomed among the Black Fleet as metal met alien hulls, but this time the enemy was ready. Their return fire came in coordinated waves, energy beams crossing space like deadly light shows. Lisa, take us in close, Jake ordered. We can't fight them from a distance anymore. The New Horizon dove toward the enemy fleet with dozens of other human ships following. It was a tactic that no Federation commander would have tried, flying directly at a superior enemy force. But humans had learned something during their 1,000 years of peace. They had learned that sometimes the crazy plan was the only plan. That worked. Sergeant Tony Martinez led Marine assault teams that nobody expected. While the big ships fought in space, small human shuttles flew between enemy vessels, landing troops directly on enemy hulls. These ships weren't designed for boarding actions, Tony reported over his radio. Their hulls are thin and they don't have internal defenses. Human Marines cut through enemy ship walls with simple cutting torches and planted explosives inside. The Void Collective had never faced enemies that would land on their ships and fight hand-to-hand. Meanwhile, Kate Johnson's special missile was loaded into the New Horizons launcher. Her target wasn't any of the enemy ships. It was the massive command vessel that had appeared behind the main fleet. That's where the signals are coming from, Amy confirmed. All the enemy ships are receiving orders from that big one. The command vessel was enormous, maybe 10 times larger than the biggest Federation ship. It stayed far from the fighting, protected by layers of smaller ships. Jake, we need to get that missile close to the target, Kate said. But their defenses are too thick, we'll never get through. Jake looked at his crew, these people who had become his family over the years of flying together. Lisa at the pilot controls, ready to fly anywhere he asked. Pete keeping the engines running no matter how much damage they took. Amy listening to enemy communications and finding their weaknesses. Tony and Kate ready to fight impossible odds. What if we don't try to get through their defenses? Jake asked. What if we go around them? Lisa understood first. Captain, you want to use the asteroid field, the one behind their fleet, Jake confirmed. We circle around, come at them from the direction they're not watching. It was a desperate plan. The asteroid field was dangerous, full of spinning rocks and unstable orbits. But it was also the one place the enemy wouldn't expect an attack to come from. The New Horizon separated from the main battle and flew a wide circle around the fighting. Other ships tried to follow, but only the most skilled pilots could navigate the dangerous asteroid field. "There," Lisa said, pointing at the main view screen. "The command ship is right where Amy said it would be." The massive enemy vessel hung, in space like a dark mountain. Around it, smaller ships moved in protective patterns, but they were all facing toward the main battle, not watching for threats from behind. "One shot," Kate said, her hand on the missile controls. "If this doesn't work, we'll never get another chance." Jake nodded. "Do it." The missile launched silently, flying on a path that would take it right to the heart of the command vessel. For long seconds, it looked like the plan would work. Then, the enemy ship's defenses activated. Energy beams reached out to destroy the incoming missile. But Kate Johnson was smarter than the enemy computers. Her missile suddenly split into dozens of smaller warheads, each following a different path toward the target. The command ship's defenses couldn't stop them all. The explosion was visible from Earth. When the command vessel died, every Void collective ship in the battle suddenly stopped moving. Without orders from their central command, they drifted helplessly in space. "This is General Clark to all ships," came the voice over the radio. "The enemy fleet is disabled. Begin recovery operations. The battle was over. The war was won. Months." Later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, watching human and alien cadets training together. The galaxy had learned that peace was something you had to fight to keep. Ambassador Karen White addressed the Federation Council from a position of respect she had never had before. "We learned that strength doesn't come from the best weapons," she said. "It comes from never forgetting that sometimes you have to use them. The 1,000 years of peace were over, but something better had begun. 1,000 years of prepared peace, guarded by those who remembered the cost of freedom."